Jeff Gordon is not only one of the greatest NASCAR drivers of all time, but also one of the greatest race car drivers to ever live. After 2 seasons of being separated from the throne, Gordon looked to make 2004 the end of his drive for 5. With the new chase for the Nextel Cup cutting off the top 10 in points and resetting them in the final 10 races, it offered a brand new curveball and opportunity for the driver of the 24 car to win it all. The opening of Gordon's 2004 season, though, was really nothing to write home about. After a crash in Darlington, the 5th race of the season, he sat 12th in the points, 53 points out of the 10-man field. But that would be Gordon's statistical low point of the season, starting with Bristol, where he'd finished 9th, then 3rd at Texas, and 6th at Martinsville. And after 8 races, he would be 7th in the points, now 57 above the cutoff. Still, he was in search of his first victory of the season. Talladega would offer a great chance for it, but in order to do so, he would have to beat DEI, as they had won the last 5 races at the Alabama facility. Top dog of this team being championship rival Dale Earnhardt Jr., who from 2001 through 2003 won 4 straight races at Talladega. In the closing laps, after a late race restart, the 8 and 24 were fighting for plate track supremacy.
Tied together, I mean, we got 140,000 people here with 5.5 laps to go. Nobody's sitting down.
Whoa, Gordon way to the bottom of the racetrack, and Jimmy Johnson comes right up the bumper of Dale Earnhardt Jr., and Gordon gets the lead. But can he keep it?
No, he can't. The 8 car is just so strong, they can make a run on him, and obviously they can get to, oh boy, that was almost a disaster.
Yes,
that looked like a Tony Stewart deal there.
5 laps to go this time.
Well, I got to say, this is the best race I've seen here in a long time.
Dale Earnhardt Jr., that 8 car was sideways off turn 4. I don't even think he ever got out of the throttle.
Couldn't.
So, lifters are losers here.
That's it.
Robbie Gordon in the mix now in 5th place, that bright orange singular car.
Trying to get up with his teammate.
Kevin Harvick.
But look at the outside line. Jamie McMurray in the 42 car. Michael Waltrip in the 15. He's fighting his way back up.
Gordon inches ahead.
Right there is where Junior is so strong. Sailing off into the
trouble.
turn.
1 car around, and it's Brian Vickers.
All right, the caution is out. And we are past the red flag lap. We are past the red flag lap. But remember, the field was frozen when the caution flag came out.
And who at that moment was the leader? We'll have to go back and see.
It would be obviously either Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 8 or Jeff Gordon in the 24.
The win was one of the most controversial among fans in NASCAR and Talladega history. The heavily partisan crowd would show their displeasure.
Tony Stewart will be 22nd, just could not gain any ground after having to make that
free all over the place out there. Just watch it.
That final stop. And that's what NASCAR was concerned about. A lot of debris on the racetrack.
Probably all Budweiser cans.
After the fan-viewed questionable win, Gordon would back it up with a definitive win at California.
White flag for Jeff Gordon, trying to score his 66th career win.
Uh-oh, Bobby Labonte's out of gas. Bobby Labonte's out of gas.
Jeff Gordon still running through the middle of 1 and 2.
Labonte right down on the bottom, but the gap opened up. Can Jeremy Mayfield, Jimmy Johnson, Ryan Newman catch up?
Bobby's out of gas. It's just that he had a little shot, but
Matt.
Jeremy Mayfield came out, says I feel like I'm out of gas as well. Tank Probus is on the wall for the past 2 laps.
Kyle Kane also on pit road.
Both Evernham cars on pit road. Jeremy Mayfield and Casey Kane.
I was going to say they're not notorious for getting great gas mileage.
Checkered flag. Jeff Gordon wins it.
2 races, Gordon was vaulted from 7th in points, 57 above 11th, to 3rd, 217 above the cut line, and only 27 points behind leader Dale Jr. But Gordon's inconsistent season continued, as in the next 5 races he scored 3 finishes of 30th or worse. Yet, in this, he had kept the gap of more than a race over the cut line, and began a full recovery and run to the championship races.
Of course, that asks the question again, half a lap to go. Can Jeff Gordon in that 24 car make it?
The good news for Gordon, it's all downhill from here.
better not sputter. That's all I can tell you. That 42 is close enough that if anything should go wrong.
Down about 1.3 seconds, first to second.
Scott Pruitt has backed completely off of his teammate Jamie McMurray now for second.
Boy, look here. Jeff is just being so cautious.
One corner to go.
And he has every right to be. I mean, he's just driven a flawless race all day long.
McMurray is almost there, but Jeff Gordon will come off turn 12 and score his 67th career Cup victory and his 8th road course checkered flag. Johnson, a look to the bottom. He got the least little bit out of line, and Junior's there.
And look what that did. That let Junior get there. I mean,
but he gives up a lot of ground right there, Darrell.
Yeah,
his car will not turn from the center off.
It's just too tight off at 2 over there. That's where you got to squeeze out the throttle ever so slightly. He's going to get a run at him, but it's going to be too little too late.
Busch is coming, and Mark Martin has a run on Tony Stewart.
Here
and
comes
the front
Junior.
four
He's going to
packed together again.
He's going to go the high side, but it ain't going to do him any good.
This lap, this race 5 times has been won by a last lap pass. Jimmy Johnson locked onto his teammate and mentor Jeff Gordon. Jeff Gordon's DuPont Pepsi Chevy is going to win the Pepsi 400. Free Pepsi Edge for America.
Ricky Rudd with a right front problem. So far, green flag remains out. And they'll race the final half lap back to the checkered flag. Look at all the blocking going on back there. Who's that blowing up?
Somebody blowing up the back. I believe it was.
It is Mark Martin.
Not again.
Elliott Sadler trying his teammate for second. That's all it's going to be, is for second spot. Caution flag is out. The race is over. Jeff Gordon wins the Brickyard 400 for a 4th time. A dominating performance today by Gordon.
After his 5th win of the season at the Brickyard, Gordon would have nearly 500 points of a gap over the cut. He was basically locked in, now focusing on seeding, as he and teammate Jimmy Johnson had run away from the pack. Gordon would prevail in leading the pack into the 10-race chase and now had a 5-point lead over Jimmy Johnson. And with the field being set by owner's points, it meant that Gordon would lead the field fully into the chase era. Gordon would lead the first 11 laps, and then as well as 21 in total, en route to a 7th place finish. And while a decent run, it already put him 9 points behind new leaders Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Kurt Busch. But the next week at Dover, Gordon would finish 3rd, being one of only 8 drivers to finish on the lead lap. This would be good enough to gain him a 1-point lead over Kurt Busch with 8 races remaining. But what loomed ahead over the horizon was the largest wild card in the championship, Talladega. Even with Gordon having won the previous race at the Superspeedway and being one of the best drafters in the sport, it was still one of the most nerve-wracking tracks on the schedule and the most nerve-wracking track in the chase. It would prove to be too much for the 24, as a late race caution would mire him in the back of the pack where he would finish 19th. And with Dale Earnhardt Jr. winning and Kurt Busch coming home in 5th, it meant that Gordon would fall to 3rd in points, 48 behind the driver of the 97. And a 13th at Kansas the next week only pushed him further back, now 79 out of the lead. It seemed at Lowe's, though, that Gordon had regained some of his championship mojo, finishing 2nd behind Jimmy Johnson. But with Busch in 3rd and Earnhardt in 4th, it meant that Gordon was still 3rd, 74 back at the chase's halfway point. Luckily for Gordon, his best track in the Martinsville Speedway was next up on the schedule, and it seemed that he would be given another great chance for the championship. But all of that would go away as the 24 struggled, falling as far back as 28th at one point. But as the 24 team so often had done, they would recover fully and then finish 9th. And because of Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s troubles, he would jump up to 2nd in the points, but he was still 96 points back with 4 races remaining. But on this day, racing would be the furthest of concerns.
At this point for the post-race celebration, that will not be the case today. I'm with Jim Hunter, who's NASCAR's Vice President of Corporate Communications. And Jim, you have some very sad news.
Yes, we've been made aware the FAA reported they lost contact with a Hendrick Motorsports airplane inbound for Martinsville earlier today, Bill.
all of Hendrick Motorsports would be left in a state of shock, mourning, and loss. The crash was a tragedy that sent waves through the sport. In a show of respect, love, and strength, every Hendrick Motorsports car would feature a commemorative logo with pictures of every victim on it, with the words, "Always in our hearts." The tribute would last for the remainder of the 2004 season. The race at Atlanta looked to at first be a benefit to Gordon's Chase bid.
Nor the 99, nor the 12 car, but
smoke! The championship leader's in trouble, Dave.
Kurt radioed in, "I've dropped a cylinder." They said, "Switch ignition boxes." He said, "I already did."
But just as the 97 had misfortune, so too did the 24.
Back in Atlanta, the 24 car, a four-time series champion, Jeff Gordon, being pushed to the garage after a transmission problem leaving pit road. They have diagnosed it as being a rear end gear. So the 24 to the garage, joining the list of championship contenders that have fallen out of contention today.
For the entire HMS team, Atlanta would become one of the best days of the year, though.
Buddy, come on, bring it home. Bring it home. Jimmy, don't do any burnouts, buddy.
The emotions of the victory for Jimmy Johnson. He wins in Atlanta for Hendrick Motorsports.
I tell you, that's good stuff.
And loving memory all the way.
The next week at Phoenix, Gordon would look to be well on his way to a win and a huge cut into Kurt Busch's gap over him. But in the closing laps, the win would slip through his fingers. In finishing third, Gordon would jump back to second in the points, now only 41 behind. Overall, the top four were separated by 48 points heading into Darlington with 2 races remaining. Once again, Gordon led well over 100 laps, only to again have it slip away in the closing laps. This time being won by his teammate Jimmy Johnson, and heading into Homestead, the top 5 would now be separated by 82 points. Kurt Busch led the pack. Jimmy Johnson was 18 back after a hard charge over the closing weeks. Gordon would be third, now only 21 behind. Dale Earnhardt Jr. was further back, fourth, 72 points behind. And Mark Martin would round out the contenders, being fifth, 82 back. Earnhardt and Martin would be non-factors and would not be close to winning the championship. The title would be decided between Busch, Johnson, and Gordon.
Jimmy Johnson, second. Jeff Gordon trying outside Tony Stewart. Will he get it? I think he will when he gets down on the straightaway. Got the momentum.
White flag, 1 lap to go. Look at this. Kurt might get challenged by some of these guys coming up behind him.
He certainly doesn't need to lose those positions.
Jimmy Johnson to second. Jeff Gordon third. Kurt Busch in fifth and trying to hang on to that spot. If he stays there, he wins the title.
You may see a Hail Mary here by the 20 car, right on the back bumper of Jeff Gordon. Don't think he can do it.
Checkered flag is up. Greg Biffle wins the Ford 400 at the Homestead Miami Speedway. Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon finish second and third. It's not going to be enough. Kurt Busch is the 2004 NASCAR Nextel Cup Series champion.
Jeff Gordon would end up third in the final point standing, 16 points back after his third straight third-place finish. Gordon would end up never winning his 5th Cup championship. The drive for 5 would be indefinite. And it makes many wonder, what if Gordon had taken advantage of the troubles of other championship contenders at Atlanta? What if he had won in any of those 3 straight races to end the season that he finished in third? What if, in 2004, Jeff Gordon captured his missing ring?